In today's video, we're going to show you step by step how to replace the headlights on your Toyota Tacoma. If you've been looking to upgrade the front of your Toyota Tacoma, these Morimoto products are going to be the perfect solution for that. The headlights are going to give you a way cleaner, brighter light, especially when you're driving at night. And coupled with the new set of fog lights, you're going to set your truck apart from every other Tacoma out on the road. Before we get started with the install, let's talk about some of the options that Morimoto has for the Tacoma. Obviously, the main point of today's video is the XB LED headlight. These come in two color options. You have a white or a amber DRL. So the entire C light here along the outside is going to be your DRL, and then that also turns into your turn signal when your turn signal or your hazards is activated. And you have options there as well. You can have the standard on-off blink pattern or the super sexy sequential. You guys already know we're doing sequential today. The other upgrade to the new Gen 2 XB LED headlights is out of the three main lights that comprise your low and high beam, they've changed it to where all three of the lights are your low beam and the inner two most are your high beam. So a lot more light output over the Gen 1 headlights. And they also look super nice with the blacked out housing. They're going to match perfectly with pretty much any truck, and definitely the truck that we're working on today. So a couple of options there, and then moving to fog lights, you have even more options. The first one is going to be the XB LED fog light. Again, these come in a white or an amber light. These are going to give a nice crisp beam pattern. It's going to throw a lot of light both in the front and out to the side of your truck. Perfect for nighttime driving. And then stepping up one level, you have the Morimoto 4-bangers. They also come in a white or an amber, and they come in two brightness levels. So a lot of options here. The NCS brightness is going to be a super clean white light or amber light, and then the HXB option is going to take it to a whole new level. You'll be able to light up the night with any of these products from Morimoto. All right, so the obvious first step in this install is to pop the hood. Now on this truck we have the aftermarket hood struts installed, but if your truck is still using the provided hook here, make sure that you secure your hood up and out of the way. Couple fasteners that we need to remove. We're actually going to remove the entire front bumper assembly. So if we look at the very top of the grill, there's going to be two 10mm bolts here at the top. And then on each side, right next to the corner of the headlight, is going to be a plastic clip. There's one, and then there's one here on the other side. After that, we're going to move to the wheel wells. We're going to remove a couple of 10mm bolts from there, and then along the bottom of the truck, at which point the entire bumper assembly is going to come off. So be cautious of that, or if you have a friend that can help you kind of hold it so that it just doesn't fall off on the ground, I would recommend doing that. So let's grab our tools and we'll go ahead and get this removed. All right, with our trusty 10mm, we're going to go ahead and remove the two 10mm bolts that secure the top of the grill. Next up is the clips. Use your panel tool or a flat screwdriver, lift up the middle and remove the whole clip. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. With the top of the grill assembly loosened up, we're going to go ahead and head over to the driver's side fender here. There's going to be a couple of 10mm bolts on the side, and then there was a few underneath the truck. So let's start here. First one's going to be right up top here. It's going to be a 10mm bolt. Next up is going to be this fastener here. Just go ahead and use our tool. And you'll see that there's a tab here on the wheel liner that needs to be pushed off to free the edge of the fender. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. With the wheel well liner removed, we're going to work below the truck and remove the rest of the 10mm bolts. The first one's going to be all the way out here by the tire. Second one is going to be directly next to it. Moving to the front of the vehicle, we have two that are directly right here in front of the skid plate. With all of the fasteners loosened up, both on top of the grill and under the bumper, next step is if you have anything aftermarket already installed that may hinder pulling the grill off, now is the time to go ahead and remove it. So we have grill lights and the anytime backup camera, front camera kit installed on this grill. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the wires for that, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to take off the grill. With our wires disconnected, we're gonna remove the grill piece first and then the bumper. So to do this, we're going to lift up on the top of the grill to release the mounting points where we remove the first two 10mm bolts. And then we're going to grab the bottom of the grill, give it a nice little tug on each side, and it will come right off. If you don't have anything permanently attached to your grill, you can go ahead and set this off to the side. For today, we're just going to set this right up top. Now it's time to free up the bumper. If your truck has the fender flares on it like this truck does, there's a few more tabs that we're going to need to release to free up the front of the fender flare. We don't necessarily have to take it all the way off, but I'll show you that in a minute. If your truck does not have fender flares, this is going to even be an easier step for you, as the corner of the bumper will just pop right out. So let's cover how to take off the fender flares, and then we will talk about how to release the corner of the bumper. Easiest way to remove this portion of the fender flare is actually to reach up between the wheel well liner and the back of the bumper. There are a few tabs that have a retaining tab in the middle, and then they actually push like all the way through from the fender flare. So you can kind of feel them with your hand, and then you just push the tab up and gently work the fender flare away from the fender. If you just rip on this too hard, you will break the clips off, and then we'll have to fix that later. So just take your time. Okay, so on the bottom portion of the fender flare, we're really just worried about the part that goes from here up to where the two body panels meet. There are a total of 3 of those retaining tabs with the clip on them that go all the way through the bumper. So you have, basically there's one directly here, there's another one on the back side here, and then there's one more up here, and then right on the fender part there's one little clip that will probably come off. So with the fender flare kind of pulled away a little bit, we're going to reach in behind and grab the actual bumper itself, and with a gentle pull, you can see that the bumper is freed up. Just going to work our way. There we go. So with the corner loosened up, we're going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side. And then we're going to move up front. There's a couple more plastic clips that are currently holding the bumper on. So I typically leave those in place, like I said at the beginning of the video, just so the entire bumper doesn't just fall off. So we'll free up the other corner on the other side, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the clips on the front. Now we have both the corners of the bumpers freed up. We have 6 more plastic clips we need to remove real quick. There's one right here, kind of near the headlight. You have 4 across the top of the bumper that hold it onto the support, and 1 more on the other side. So we'll go ahead and remove those, and that's all that's holding the bumper on at this point. With all the 6 plastic clips removed, one more thing that we need to disconnect is there's a wiring harness that runs right down the front here that will run to the fog lights. We need to unplug it and then use our removal tool to go ahead and pop out the little clip here that holds the wiring harness onto the support. Just depress the tab, pull that off. At this point, we can just reach up, support one side of the bumper. Everything should pop right out of the way. All right, there we go. We have the bumper cover removed from the front of the Tacoma. All right, everybody, we are in the home stretch of this removal part of the installation process. Last 3 10mm bolts holding in the headlight. You have 2 on the top, and the third one is going to be right here under where the edge of the front bumper was. So we'll go ahead and remove those 3, and then we'll be able to remove the whole headlight assembly from the truck. With the 310mm bolts removed, we can lift up on the tabs that hold the top of the headlight. All right, there we go. We have it out. In addition to the 3 bolts that hold the headlight in, there's also this tab right on the bottom corner that goes in this retaining clip here. So you might just have to wiggle it loose a little bit or use a screwdriver or your pry tool just to release this out of there, and then have our entire headlight free of the vehicle. There's 5 connectors on here that we need to remove, so we can just depress the tabs on each of them and go ahead and remove all of the connectors. All right, with our headlight removed, we go ahead and set this one off to the side, and we'll grab our new Morimoto headlight. Next step in the process is connecting all of the plugs. Great thing about the Morimoto headlights is they use super high quality factory-like connectors, so everything's going to be a direct plug-and-play match to something on your truck. So let's talk about kind of a couple of the plugs that are of particular note. The first one is going to be this little guy right here. It has 1 wire going into each side. You can see it's already connected. This is going to be your turn signal option. So if you want the sequential, then we're going to leave these connected. And if you want the standard on-off turn signal, just simply separate the 2. All right, moving on to the rest of the main harness here. Couple things to note. There are 2 plugs that look almost identical. I got 1 black one, 1 white one here, and if you look, they've been kind enough to label on the black one that says low. So this is going to be for your low beam, which means the other one by default is for the high beam. So we're going to connect all this. We'll run through a function test to make sure that we have all of our connectors connected appropriately. And then the other thing that we'll need to run is the DRL harness, and I'll show that to you in a minute after we get this headlight in place. All right, give each of those a good push until you hear a nice firm snap. Go ahead and set our headlight into place. All right, so we have our tabs lined up top. We have nice even fitment around the fender. Heard the retaining tab down here on the bottom corner snap into place. So let's grab our DRL harness and we'll get that plugged in. Provided with your new headlights is going to be this DRL fuse harness. So you'll see it has a add fuse on one end. It already has 2 fuses loaded into it, and then you have 2 connectors that these will go to the headlights respectively. So if we stretch this out a little bit, you will notice that one of these connectors is closer to the add fuse and one is further away. So obviously the one that's closer to the add fuse is going to go to your driver's side headlight, as the fuse box on the Tacoma is on the driver's side, and then the one for the passenger side we're going to stretch across and plug into the passenger side headlight. So we're going to have to move the grill out of the way momentarily to show you the fuse panel. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll hook up our add fuse. Moving to our fuse panel, go ahead and remove the cover. Just release the tabs on the sides. Pull that up out of the way. All right, the fuse that we are going to use today is this 10 amp, which is right over here, which if you look at your fuse box cover in correspondence, that is the 10 amp INJ fuse. You could also use the EFI, but for today we're going to use this 10 amp INJ fuse. So simply enough, reach in, pull out the fuse that is already in there. We can set that to the side. Grab our DRL harness. You can see that we already have 2 fuses loaded in here. We have a 10 and a 15. So it's important note to make sure that you have 2 fuses in there before you put your add fuse in. And then this is just going to go right back where we took that other one out. So just plug it in. Give it a nice firm push, make sure it's all the way seated in there, and then we have plenty enough cable to just route this to the edge of the box. And once we close the lid down, it will close right over top of everything. So we can go ahead and button the fuse box back up. Moving on, our next step is going to be to route the DRL harness. Again, the one that is closer to the fuse box goes to the driver's side. The one that is further away, we're going to go over to the passenger side headlight. So let's do that. We have our first connector to behind the driver's side headlight. So reach down, grab the main harness from your headlight, and we are simply going to disconnect this, and we're going to connect our DRL harness in like so, and we'll continue routing the other wire over to the other headlight. Continue with running your other DRL harness across the top of the truck. You can do this a couple of ways. If you have other wiring things already up here, you can just follow those. You can run it along the top of the grill. Really, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that it's kind of clean, out of the way, and definitely does not impede the hood latch or any of the hood latch assembly. With our DRL harness run, we're going to go ahead and do a quick function check of the headlight before we secure everything back, just to make sure that everything is connected as it should. And then it's just a matter of repeating the same process for the other side and getting your passenger headlight installed. So we'll go ahead and run through a function check. We'll do that, and then we'll go over how to button everything back up. Okay, so as you guys just saw, we ran through the full functionality of the new Morimoto XB LED headlights that we put in the Tacoma. So install portion is basically done. Now we just got to button the truck back up. So let's go ahead and secure everything back in place so we can go out and hit the trail and enjoy our new headlights. Start off with the bolts that hold the headlight in. You have the silver one here. That one goes towards the outside, and then the other two go up top. So let's secure that in place. With both your new headlights installed, now we just need to put the truck back together. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll get started with the lower bumper. So let me grab that and we'll fit that back on the truck. Now that we have the bumper loosely hung on the front of the truck, now we can go ahead and start with the corners here. This will push back into place. Make sure that your wheel well liner is where it needs to be. All right, at this point, don't forget to hook up any of the additional harnesses or cabling that you had to disconnect. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back for the fog lights. See, we have all of our holes lined up here, so we're gonna grab our plastic clips and go ahead and secure the top of the bumper. Now we can reinstall the grille. With our grill back on and all of our aftermarket wiring tidied up, we go ahead and put in the plastic clips on each side. Leaves us with the two 10mm bolts for up top. All right, so the top side is secure. We're gonna go ahead and close the hood, and all we have left is the bolts along the bottom. On the sides here, remember we have a 10mm bolt at the top. Have this plastic pin. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Next up, we just need to re-secure all the bolts that went along the bottom of the bumper. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. All right, everybody, that wraps up the install on these Morimoto XB LED headlights for the 2016 and newer Toyota Tacoma. If you want to pick up a set of these for your truck, either in the white DRL or the amber DRL, head over to the shop at www.trailgridpro.com. And like always, have a blast out there.